My name is Ethan Carter, and I only have one request before you continue reading this. Don't treat it like a story you're supposed to enjoy. Treat it like something you were never meant to hear. Because if there's even a small chance this thing still works the way it did 4 years ago, then knowing about it is already dangerous. It started on a normal Tuesday morning when 3 identical black envelopes appeared in 3 different mailboxes across Portland. Mine, Mason's, and Tyler's. No stamps, no return address, no courier marks, just our full names written in silver ink that looked slightly raised, like it was still drying even though the paper was ice cold to the touch. Inside each envelope was a single ticket made of thick black material that didn't feel like paper at all, and on it were the words "Midnight Hollow, Admit 1, along with a second line printed on the back. Do not leave empty-handed. At first, we did what anyone would do. We laughed, assumed it was a prank, and compared pictures in our group chat. But the strange part wasn't the tickets. It was how we reacted to them. Mason said his suddenly felt heavier whenever he looked away. Tyler said his had changed temperature 3 times in 10 minutes without him touching it. And I kept noticing that every time I tried to put mine down, I would forget where I left it until I looked directly at it again. That night, Tyler checked his apartment security footage and found something that still doesn't make sense to me even after watching it 100 times. At 8:14 a.m., his mailbox was empty. At 8 hours, 14 minutes, and 12 seconds, there was a brief static glitch. At 8 hours, 14 minutes, and 13 seconds, the envelope was already in his hand, but there was no footage of it arriving. No motion, no person, just static and then presence. Mason tried burning his ticket that same night in his kitchen sink. It didn't burn. It didn't even scorch. The flame from his lighter bent slightly away from it, like it refused to make contact. And when he turned his back for less than 10 seconds, the ticket reappeared in his pocket. That's when we should have stopped. Instead, things escalated in ways that didn't feel like haunting at first. They felt like reality losing its grip. Names of people we searched online started disappearing as we typed them. The word midnight auto-corrected into blank space on all our devices. And Tyler noticed something worse. Every mirror in his house reflected him a fraction of a second late, like it was thinking before copying. The invitation date was always the same, Saturday. No year, no time, just coordinates deep outside the city, near an abandoned forest road that didn't exist on modern maps. When Saturday came, none of us wanted to go, but we also couldn't explain why staying away felt worse. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was pressure, like something quietly pulling thoughts out of our heads whenever we tried to decide against it. The drive itself took almost 3 hours, but the road began changing halfway through. Street signs lost letters. The GPS recalculated distances that didn't match fuel usage. At one point, Tyler pointed at a school bus stopped on the shoulder of the road with its hazard lights blinking, but when we passed it, there was no bus in any direction. Only the faint sound of children laughing for a split second in our back seat, even though nothing was there. Eventually, the road simply ended, not into a barrier or a gate, but into a gap in the forest where everything beyond looked slightly out of focus. And there it was, Midnight Hollow. From a distance, it looked like an abandoned amusement park swallowed by trees. Rusted rides, broken signs, faded banners. But as we got closer, the details stopped behaving normally. The Ferris wheel turned slightly, even though there was no wind. The entrance gates were open, even though no one had touched them. And every single surface, metal, wood, glass, looked like it had been recently wiped clean, as if decay itself had been paused. Our phones died the moment we stepped out of the car. Not low battery, not shut down, just instant black screens, like the concept of signal stopped existing. Tyler still had an old camcorder, and it worked perfectly, which should have been reassuring, but it wasn't because through its lens the park looked different. Cleaner, lighter, almost alive. And above the entrance, a banner appeared in the camera that none of us could see with our own eyes. Welcome back. We didn't notice the footprints at first. Thousands of them pressed into the dirt, all small, all identical, all leading inward, none leading out. As we followed them deeper, the sound of the world slowly disappeared. No birds, no insects, No wind. Even our footsteps started sounding delayed, like the ground was reacting after we stepped on it instead of at the same time. Then the carousel music began. Not loud, not close, just present, like it had always been playing somewhere just outside perception. When we finally reached the center of the park, we saw the carousel. It was motionless, but the horses were moving, not spinning, not rotating, just subtly shifting positions whenever we blinked. And sitting on the white horse in the center was a porcelain doll wearing a faded blue dress. It didn't look old. It looked preserved, like time had avoided it. Mason immediately said we shouldn't touch it. Tyler laughed nervously and said it was probably part of an art installation. I didn't say anything because I noticed something wrong. The doll wasn't looking at any of us. It was looking slightly past us, like it was waiting for someone standing behind us who wasn't there yet. Then the doll's head turned. Not fast, not dramatic, slowly, like it was confirming something. And that's when the carousel music stopped completely. In the silence, Tyler's camcorder screen flickered, and for a split second, it showed something we couldn't see. The park full of people, not adults, children, standing between every ride, watching us without blinking. When the screen went back to normal, they were gone. Mason said we needed to leave immediately. We turned around, and the exit wasn't there anymore. Not blocked, not closed, gone. Just forest in every direction, like the park had never existed outside the space we were standing in. Then the doll spoke for the first time. It didn't move its mouth at first. The sound came from everywhere at once, like it was inside the air itself. You brought me back. Tyler dropped the camcorder. The sound it made hitting the ground echoed too long, longer than it should have. When he picked it up again, the recording was still running, but now it showed something different. Each of us standing alone in separate parts of the park, even though we were physically together. That's when Mason disappeared. Not violently, not with a scream. 1 second he was there, the next he was just not part of the frame anymore. No sound, no movement, just absence. Tyler tried to run, but every direction led back to the carousel. And every time we circled it, the doll was closer. Until finally, it wasn't on the horse anymore. It was standing on the ground, human height, watching us properly for the first time, and smiling. Not carved, not painted, real. That's when I understood the rule of Midnight Hollow. Not everything taken from there is lost. Some things are returned incorrectly, and they don't always come back alone. The last thing I remember clearly is Tyler whispering that he could hear Mason's voice inside the camcorder, telling him to come closer. I remember reaching for him. I remember the doll stepping forward at the same time. And then I remember realizing the forest wasn't around us anymore. We were inside something that had been shaped like a park, so we wouldn't notice what it actually was. I don't know how I got out. I don't know if I did. But sometimes when I open my eyes at night, I see a blue dress hanging in the corner of my room, waiting for me to look at it directly. And I never do. We didn't run because there was nowhere left to run. The forest had already stopped behaving like a forest. Every direction looked the same. Dense trees, fading light, and that unnatural silence that felt less like the absence of sound and more like sound had been deliberately removed. Tyler kept pointing the camcorder forward as if recording it would somehow keep it from changing again. But even he had gone quiet now, his breathing shallow, controlled, like he was afraid the air itself might react to him. Mason's disappearance still hadn't fully settled in my mind. 1 second he was beside us, the next he was just gone, not dragged, not attacked, not even fading away, just removed like someone had deleted him from reality and forgotten to leave a trace. I kept expecting him to reappear between the trees, joking that it was a prank, but the silence made that impossible to believe. Then the camcorder clicked softly and Tyler stopped walking. On the screen, Mason was still there. Not gone, not missing, standing a few steps behind us, staring directly into the camera with an expression that didn't match anything human I knew, completely calm, almost relieved, like he had accepted something we hadn't. I grabbed the camera, but when I looked up physically, there was nothing behind us. Only forest. When I looked back at the screen, Mason lifted his hand slowly and pointed forward. Tyler whispered, "Don't trust it. but he was already walking in the direction Mason had pointed. And somehow, without discussion, I followed. The path wasn't visible at first. It only became visible when we stopped trying to find it. A narrow break between the trees, almost like a corridor had been carved out and then hidden under branches. As we stepped into it, the air changed again, colder, heavier, and strangely structured, like the space around us had layers now instead of emptiness. That's when we heard the carousel music again. Not distant this time. Close. Too close. The forest finally opened into something that shouldn't have existed. Midnight Hollow was there again, but not like before. The entrance gates were no longer rusted. They looked new, freshly painted, like they had been restored overnight. The sign above read Midnight Hollow in clean, bright letters that reflected light, even though there was no visible source of illumination. Tyler lowered the camcorder slightly. "This wasn't here a second ago," he said, "but I knew it had been. Or at least, it had been waiting for us to notice it." The moment we stepped closer, the gates opened on their own. Not slowly, not dramatically, just a quiet separation, like they had been unlocked from the other side long before we arrived. And beyond them, the park looked alive. Not abandoned, not decayed, active. The rides moved gently, lights flickered across stalls, and for a moment, I almost convinced myself we had walked into the wrong place entirely. But then I noticed something worse. There were no operators, no staff, no visitors, only motion without source. Tyler kept filming, but I could see his hand shaking now. "We go in, confirm it's fake, and leave," he repeated, like saying it out loud would make it true. We stepped inside. The silence didn't break. It deepened. Every step we took felt like it was being registered somewhere unseen, like the park itself was acknowledging our movement. The ground beneath us had no dust, no decay, no history. It felt reset, perfectly maintained in a way that made it more wrong than abandoned ruins ever could. And then we saw them. Footprints again. Thousands of them. But now they were different. Cleaner. Organized. Like children had been walking in lines instead of wandering. All leading toward the center of the park. Tyler didn't speak. He just followed them. We passed stalls filled with toys that looked new but slightly off. Colors too saturated, shapes too symmetrical, like they had been copied from memory instead of made by hand. One stall had balloons tied to it, floating perfectly still in the air without wind. When I brushed past them accidentally, they didn't move. They deflated instantly into thin black ash and disappeared. Tyler stopped recording for the first time. "That's not normal," he said quietly. Mason's voice came through the camcorder again at that exact moment. "It's inside." Tyler nearly dropped it. I looked at the screen again. Mason wasn't pointing anymore. He was just standing in a different place now, closer than before, inside one of the empty carnival booths, watching us from behind the glass like he belonged there. But physically, there was nothing inside that booth. Only reflections that didn't match reality. We reached the carousel without realizing how far we had walked. It was already spinning slowly, even though there was no visible force moving it. The horses were clean, polished, almost new. And at the center, standing on the platform instead of sitting, was the porcelain doll. The blue dress was brighter now, like it had been recently washed. Its head tilted slightly as we approached, acknowledging us before we even stopped moving. Tyler whispered, "Don't touch it." But this time, it felt less like advice and more like a rule that had already been broken before we arrived. The carousel slowed. Not stopped, slowed, like it was deciding whether or not we deserved movement. Then the doll spoke again, but closer than before. Not from everywhere, from directly behind Tyler. "You came back." We turned instantly. Nothing was there. When we looked back, the doll had moved closer. One step, that's all. But it hadn't walked. It had just changed position. Mason's voice came again through the camcorder, but this time it wasn't calm. It was confused. "Why are there 3 of you?" Tyler froze. "We are 3, he said, but I suddenly realized something I hadn't allowed myself to think until that moment. I couldn't clearly remember Mason's face anymore. Not in detail, just presence. Like my memory of him was being overwritten every time I tried to focus. The doll tilted its head again. One stayed, one returned, one is late. The carousel stopped completely. Every light in the park flickered at once. And in that single flicker, I saw something standing between the rides. Rows of children again, perfectly still, all facing us. But this time, they weren't just watching. They were waiting. Tyler finally broke. He ran toward the exit, or where the exit should have been. I followed him. But the moment we turned, the entrance was gone again, replaced by forest. The same forest. Like the park had closed its mouth. Behind us, the carousel started moving again. Slower now, deliberate, and the doll was gone. Not disappeared, just no longer visible in the place we expected it to be. Tyler stopped running first. I don't know why. He just stopped, staring at something in the trees. I followed his gaze. Mason was standing there, but not fully, not correctly, like he had been assembled from fragments of memory and placed upright without finishing him. He raised one hand slowly and pointed back toward the carousel. And for the first time, I understood what Midnight Hollow actually was. It wasn't a place people visited. It was a place that replaced what they brought with them. And we had brought something it was still deciding how to return. Tyler stopped running, not because he was tired and not because he had given up, but because something in him finally accepted what I was still refusing to understand. The forest wasn't blocking our exit. It was replacing it. Every direction we ran kept bending back toward the same point, like the space itself had decided we were not allowed to leave in more than one way. Mason was still standing between the trees, but the longer I looked at him, the less certain I became that he was actually there in the way I remembered. His outline felt correct, his face familiar, but the details kept slipping away every time I tried to focus, like my memory was being gently erased in real time. Tyler slowly lifted the camcorder again, hands shaking so badly I could hear the plastic creak under his grip. "Don't," I said, but I didn't stop him. On the screen, Mason looked clearer than he did in real life. Too clear. And behind him, the forest wasn't empty anymore. Rows of children stood between the trees, perfectly still, facing forward like an audience waiting for a performance that had already started. When I lowered my eyes from the screen, they were gone. When I raised it again, they were back. Tyler whispered, "They only exist when it wants them to." That sentence made something inside my chest go cold because he didn't say it like he was guessing anymore. He said it like he already knew what it was. The doll appeared behind him without sound. No footsteps, no movement of air, just presence, as if reality had simply inserted it into the space it chose. It stood at human height now. The porcelain face no longer delicate or fragile, but smooth and intentional, like it had been designed to imitate innocence rather than possess it. "You brought him back wrong," it said. Tyler turned so fast, he almost dropped the camcorder again. "What does that mean?" he shouted, but his voice cracked halfway through. The doll tilted its head slightly, as if studying him. "One of you stayed. One of you returned. One of you is still outside." I felt my stomach drop because I realized it wasn't talking about distance. It was talking about states, presence, identity. Mason took one step forward, just one, and the ground under him reacted like it recognized him. Leaves shifted in a circle. The air around him tightened. Tyler whispered, "Ethan, that's not him." But I couldn't answer because I was trying to remember something very basic and failing. I couldn't remember Mason's laugh anymore. The sound of it was gone, replaced by silence where it should have been. The camcorder suddenly flickered. On the screen, Mason's face changed for a fraction of a second. Not physically, but like something behind it blinked in and out of alignment. Behind him, one of the children stepped forward. Just one, and then it spoke in Mason's voice without moving its mouth. I didn't come back alone. Tyler dropped the camcorder this time. It hit the ground, but it didn't turn off. It kept recording. The audio changed. A low mechanical counting started again, the same counting from before, but now it was layered, multiple voices overlapping, all slightly out of sync. 1, 2, 3, 4. I backed away instinctively, but the forest didn't allow distance. Every step backward felt like a loop. Every direction felt like repetition. Mason suddenly grabbed my wrist. His hand was cold, too cold, but his grip was human. "Ethan," he said, and for a second I almost believed him again. "Don't trust what you see through the camera." The doll laughed softly. It was the first time I heard it make a sound that wasn't a sentence. He learned quickly, it said. That's why he gets to stay longer. Tyler screamed, "Stay where?" But the doll didn't answer him. Instead, the camcorder on the ground showed something neither of us were looking at directly. Us, standing in the same forest, but not matching our positions, not matching our timing, slightly out of sync, like recordings layered over each other. In one frame, Mason was behind us. In another, he was in front. In another, he wasn't there at all. Then I saw it. In one of the frames, I was standing completely alone. No Taider, no Mason, just me and the doll, watching each other. I dropped to my knees and grabbed the camcorder, shaking it, try to force the image to stabilize. But instead of fixing, it changed. It showed something worse. A version of me walking away from the forest, alone, returning to the city, living, smiling, normal, and behind him, the forest stayed open like a door that had never fully closed. Tyler grabbed my shoulder hard. "Ethan, look at me," he said. I did. For the first time, I really looked at him, and I realized something that made my throat go dry. I couldn't fully remember when I last saw him outside the camcorder. The doll stepped closer again. "You're already split," it said softly. "That's why you came in 3. Mason suddenly screamed, not in pain, but in realization. "No," he said, "that's not it." He looked at me, and for the first time his expression wasn't confusion or fear. It was clarity. "We didn't come in 3, he said. "We were made into 3. The forest reacted to that sentence. Every sound stopped. Even the camcorder static paused for half a second, like reality itself was listening. The doll turned its head slightly. "Correct," it said, and then everything began to collapse inward. Not visually, structurally. Distance stopped meaning anything. The trees felt closer and farther at the same time. The children between them multiplied, but also stayed the same number. Tyler backed away slowly, whispering, "We need to leave. We need to leave now." But there was no direction left to leave in. The exit wasn't hidden anymore. It simply didn't exist in any form we could access. Mason stepped toward me again. "Ethan," he said quietly, "listen. One of us is already outside this. One of us is still being written. And one of us," he stopped. The doll finished the sentence for him. "Is already mine." Tyler turned the camcorder one last time toward us. The screen showed 3 versions of the same moment happening at once, overlapping like broken timelines. And in one of them, I wasn't looking at Mason or Tyler at all. I was looking directly at the camera, smiling. The doll stepped between us, and for the first time, I understood the rule completely. Midnight Hollow didn't take people. It corrected them. And whatever version of me is writing this now, I don't know which one survived.